Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song is a greater story.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
Hello, hello, hello. Mark Nias, Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song is a greater story. I like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on all the great podcasting platforms that stream this podcast. Today we have a special guest. It's just been a great week. We've had some great talent on the show. And then here we are with another great talent hailing from New Jersey. She currently lives in Los Angeles. She does independent horror movies, and she's been a performer since age 3. She used to do ballets and musical. That's how she started. She also had an opera scholarship. And since then, she's been in 70 horror films. She worked with genre icons such as Linda Blair. She also did infamous true-to-life stories as well, playing Susan Atkins in the Charles Manson biopic House of Mason. She was also played Casey Anthony in the ID miniseries Casey Anthony, An American Murder Mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Devanny Pinn here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing?
Hello, I am doing well, all things considering. I really appreciate you having me on to chat.
Oh, not a problem. Yeah, we had a sidebar conversation before the show, and I tell people, I'm like, I feel like I'm stuck in the Quentin Tarantino / Stephen King horror movie, and I want to be like Adam Sandler and just fast forward through this. Like 2020, let's just go ahead and fast forward through it.
It's unbelievable, and and we were talking before this. It's very surreal and has been extra strange for me because horror is a big part of my life, and I am acting out misery and death in most of my films, and it's a source of escapism. It's a source of contained, crazy to say, but entertainment. And I feel like I can't hit the pause button. I can't step off set. It just, the lines between reality and fantasy have really blurred on this one, and it's just messing, with everybody. Everyone is having having a time dealing with this, but it's very interesting time to be in my corner of the profession because I don't really know what to do with any of this, to be honest with you. Normally, I'm very happy to talk about horror films and the true crime work I've done, and and how it is escapism. And I'm not sure actually. What do you think?
It's weird, right? Because I know when this first happened, Netflix, now they put the top 10 movies in the country. It was Contagion, it was Outbreak, it was all these pandemic, and of course I got sucked into it, and I'm just like, man, there's a lot of similarities between this and what's going on, and I feel like this is kind of like a Stephen King movie, to whereas like right now, people, like I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, this gives us a lot of time to think because you're inside, you're isolated, but at the same time, it gives you, it makes you appreciate being around other human beings. Now I understand why, they say with prisoners, solitary confinement is horrible. It's like a slow death to prisoners, and I never understood that, but now a lot of my friends, the biggest complaint is like, I can't be around humans. And even actually for the past week, I'm like, man, I want to go to a movie theater. Like I miss the whole environment of being in a movie theater, movie popcorn. So but to speak to your point, it feels like a real bad movie, and it's so surreal.
It does, and you're right. We're social creatures, and we need that. We need people, and again, my heart does go out to people in the prison system. It is a form of torture. It is it does mess with you mentally, physically, and in all capacity. I also watched Contagion when it was trending on Netflix, go figure. And how bizarre is that we, we're in the middle of this thing and we still turn to a form of entertainment to try to process it. And I watched it, and I remember when it ended, I sat there for a minute, taking it all in, thinking, oh, what a crazy movie that is. And then realizing that I turned the movie off.
But we're here.
Yes. Usually when you're done with a horror movie or when you're done with something that's a little too close to home, you can step back and say, okay, but it's just a movie. The movie ended on, as a high note of this situation could have, which is they found the cure and people were getting it and they were starting to get back to normal. But that was the beginning of the pandemic for us. We were just getting started. And it was like, I immediately regretted watching the movie.
Yeah.
But I think other people did too, because notice it was, all the Contagion type movies were trending, just like you said, for a little while when we were first starting to acknowledge the pandemic. And now, Tiger King is trying to think that the farthest thing from Contagion or any kind of thing.
Joe Exotic is keeping us comfort right now.
Absolutely. And how ironic that he's sitting in prison too.
You know what's funny? He's in Fort Worth. I live in North Fort Worth, and he's here in Fort Worth, Texas prison.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Oh wow! And you bring up a good point, because I'm like, at any given time, would that movie or that documentary be as big as it is right now? Because that thing is totally far left, and it's like, hey, we need escapism from what we're going through right now. I mean,
that is the ultimate escapism. Kudos to Netflix for pulling that one out, because it was the crazy wild story we all really needed right now. And that really just goes to tell you in entertainment, now more than ever, I mean, we've gotten rid of like social contact, we've gotten rid of going to the movie theaters and TV shows, a lot of them, the new ones are canceled, but we still need that escapism, that form of art and entertainment in order to just do day to day. And I think it really says how important the arts, music, film, TV really is to everybody.
No, you're right. I wanted to ask you, because we talked about Contagion and we talked about the ending, where do you feel we are in that movie right now? In the beginning, the middle, the end, where do you think we are in that movie?
We are at the beginning of the second act, and it's right when people realize we kind of don't have an escape from this and there's nothing to do. We can't deny it anymore. We can't pretend it's a hoax. We can't pretend it's happening only to somebody else or to a different age group or demographic. We have all just, as a world, acknowledged this is for everybody, and there's nothing we can do but just hunker down and do the best we can. And that's a very real place to be. And I mean, as far as the movie Contagion, I think they got there a little faster than we did on it. But the good news is unlike that movie and unlike the movies of that sort, it's not 100% deadly. It does fortunately have that effect, but it's not like if you have contracted it, you're guaranteed to have that kind of an ending. There is, many people who are recovering, who are, working really hard to stay healthy even through it. And so there is like more hope in our situation than in, movies. Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, and I just hope like afterwards they do a postmortem. We know we have a whole bunch of lessons learned, because we were so far in denial as it was happening in other parts of the world, and people were like, no, it's not going to happen to us. Here we are.
It was very interesting to watch. I actually, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I had traveled to the Philippines for movies there this year, and I was supposed to fly through China. And we were watching the situation over there grow and grow and grow. And so we were watching literally like several times a day in real time with China to find out what their situation was like, way before anyone in the U.S. like even acknowledged things were happening there. Mm-hmm. And so I really, I watched this from just a couple of cases to a couple more cases to, okay, craziness. Some of our partners were Chinese and they were like, oh, no, it's fine. It's just Wuhan. And then, then it wasn't. And then when we traveled, we ended up getting rerouted just a few days before our flight, China canceled all of their domestic flights. And so we were rerouted through South Korea to the Philippines. And on the way out, there were a couple of flight attendants who had some masks, and a couple of people in the airport had it. And throughout our week in the Philippines, more and more places each day were starting to screen for people's temperatures when they were entering.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, that's good for them taking precautions. But no one took it any kind of serious at that point. They just thought, we don't want anyone to have the flu here. And the flight back, which was only a week later, almost everybody in the airports in the Philippines and in South Korea were wearing masks and gloves. They were scrubbing down. I mean, it was night and day. They took them less than a week to acknowledge the situation there and for the whole, as a society, to hunker down and do their part. And I think that's part of the reason that they don't have nearly the situation that we did. We came back through the airport at LAX, and wouldn't you know, we were crowded in for hours coming through customs. No one asked if we were sick, even though several people in line with us were visibly very ill and coughing. Wow. There was no questions about anything other than, did you go to China? At this point, it had spread way past it. And there was not even any hand sanitizer. And we were just letting people in by the thousands, hour after hour. And, and nobody did anything. And that, a month later, before they even acknowledged it. So I knew that this was going to be hit hard. But other parts of the world, they took it seriously day one. And I think, I don't want to get political or anything, but I think, we're really seeing the effects of us being, I think, as a country, a little bit arrogant and a little bit naive.
Yeah, and that false sense of American exceptionalism has been shattered.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that you're right. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned here, and a lot of things that could get way better for us and for the world if, we're willing to sin and really look at those lessons now.
Like I tell people, I was like, this is our Black Plague, this is our pandemic, and a chance for us as a country to look in the mirror, because it's like you said, you were there in China, and I was supposed to go to Singapore, and it was like, it's not going to happen. And I, other than podcasting and being a musical artist, I work for American Airlines, and we sat there and watched. And my manager, who's from Ireland, he was like, it's coming, and it's gonna, when it comes, he predicted all of this, and months ago, and,
yes,
here we are. So to kind of change gears.
On that note,
yeah,
sorry, I know. I think we have to acknowledge the reality that we're in right now.
No, we have to. Like you said, you
have a movie out. I don't want to discuss.
No, like you said, you work in the horror genre, you can walk away, but this is not. No, we can't walk away from this.
We're not walking away. We're right here in it. So yeah, but I'm glad that people are getting creative, and yeah. I actually do a lot of podcasts. I love doing them, but I'm a workaholic, and so I'm constantly trying to film, and I don't get a lot of time to chat about things. Yeah. So that's one good thing is I'm getting to do a lot more. I'm learning technology. I learned Skype for you.
No, thank you. And actually, I just launched the Nias Media Roku channel, and an idea that I had for a while, but now that you got a social distance, I was like, let me dig into this Roku developing thing and figure this out. So,
congratulations! That's very very cool.
Thank you.
So thank you for having me on. Let's get into it.
So, what part of New Jersey are you from? The reason why I ask, I used to live in Fort Dix and I used to live in Cherry Hill. So, love the Garden State.
But outside of Cherry Hill, in a town called Medford.
Okay, Medford. Okay. And so you obviously you knew you wanted to be a performer because you started at age 3 and you started in ballets and musicals. Like, what was that experience like? So you already knew, hey, this is what I want to do.
Oh, absolutely. My mom has stories of me as young as less than 2, like little, I don't know. She said between 1 and 2 years old. And we went to the Jersey Shore, of course, Atlantic City.
AC.
And the stage performers in the hotels there were asking for volunteers if anyone wanted to come up and sing a song on the break. And apparently I marched straight to the front of the crowd at this casino lobby, took the mic and started singing. So I knew from as long as I could remember that I wanted to be a performer. And I did ballet theater for a while. If you're familiar, I don't know if you're familiar or not, if you're from South Jersey, but they have a theater company there called Pineland Players. So I did my first stage performance with them at age 5 in The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Yeah, I played a munchkin. I was the youngest one there. But I was hooked immediately. I just, some people get nervous in front of an audience or, I just feel very at home there. And so it was always ingrained to me that it's something I wanted to do. And when I got a little bit older, I actually never intended to go into film. I wanted to do musical theater, but I went to school out west in Arizona, and I was looking to get involved with theater there, and I couldn't find anything right away. But what I did find was an independent film audition, and I was like, "What's an independent film?" And so I went to the audition just for to say that I did and for a new experience. And I ended up booking the lead in this little indie horror movie, and. Yeah, and it was just one of those right place, right time kind of things. And a lot of the things I had learned from music and from theater worked really well in the horror genre. And actually, a lot of people in my fields come from that background as well. I used a lot of the vocal training I had learned in musical theater and opera to then project and scream to scream in my horror movies and to show the big expression you learn on the stage work well in life or death situations. So a lot of that ended up translating well to the screen. And my first movie did well overseas, and I kind of got a little indie fan base. And from there, people came to me and said, "Hey, I'm doing a movie too. I saw this one. Will you do mine?" And it just kind of spiraled from there, and I've been working consistently ever since.
Yeah, because you've been in like 70 horror films, and I also wanted to point out that you had an opera scholarship, so that's what brought you to.
Yes, yeah, I got a scholarship in college, so that's what got me out to the West Coast, and I knew eventually I needed to either be near New York or California, and I love the sun. So when I got that opportunity to go out there, I did. And I accidentally ended up dropping that. Don't stay in school, kids. But I ended up not because I was driving back and forth on weekends to go film in California and a few other places. And so it got to the point where I really needed to choose one or the other. And I said, oh, let me just ride this wave for a little while and film until it dries up, and then I'll finish my schooling. And
wow.
Yeah, and I just didn't get a chance to really go back yet, but I want to. Definitely get your education if you can, because there's opportunities all the time as well.
And I imagine, like you said, like going from Jersey to Arizona, that must have been a culture shock. And then driving from Arizona to LA, like one of the movies that used to freak me out as a kid was The Hitchhiker. Drive from California. And when I used to be stationed in San Diego, and I used to drive from San Diego to my hometown of San Antonio, I did not like driving through the desert. Like, hey, my car better not break down. I better not run out of gas.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, see, and this is spoilers, I usually play the bad guy. So everyone's always like, oh, are you scared of them? No, because usually when your car breaks down, I'm the one who shows up. So.
So. And then you said some connections that I never really thought of, because I was going to ask, like, to go from opera to horror, like, what was the trend? Because I imagine that'd be like, you think musicals and opera, it's not, unless Phantom of the Opera, but it's not as serious as horror movies. So you spoke to some of my questions, so it wasn't a hard transition.
No, and I had no idea. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually, the last production I did was Phantom of the Opera through my college. And so it was ironically a very smooth transition that way. But I didn't pursue acting. I was honestly on the stage, I was never that good of an actor. My my last teacher told me, just say the lines as fast as you can and get to the next song. Like, I was not very good on the stage at all. So I had never thought of pursuing acting. That was like the last thing I thought. And it turns out that what I don't really carry on the stage as far as acting goes, I was way too subtle. But those subtleties play really well on camera. So if you do little things with your eyes or tiny twitches or just the subtleties that would never come across on a stage were really what helped me to do very well in film. And so it's just another style, just like there's different kinds of, music, different placements of, when you're singing or playing, there's different styles and different things where one person doesn't necessarily do it well, but in another genre, another subgenre, they really excel. And this was just another medium. And I didn't really watch horror, or I grew up very Christian, and I didn't have a lot of experience with it. But right from the get-go, I was just hooked. It's so much fun to do. It's really a dream job.
Yeah, I guess it's funny because I remember the first time we did a haunted house. My first experience with a haunted house. I was a little kid. My parents were stationed in Guam, USA, and I didn't go through it. The teachers had to turn the lights on because I didn't. I wasn't going through. And then I remember I had a date. And fast forward to around the time Texas Chainsaw Massacre came. And at the time I was living in San Diego, and they had the haunted hotel. And my date, I was like, look, I don't do haunted houses. And I was like, look, if I hear a chainsaw, I'm out. So
those are my favorite. That's my weapon of choice is the chainsaw. I love it. Love Texas Chainsaw. But you're right. But what's funny too is like I can watch any movie, no problem. But the live performances, I don't know. I'm not big on the haunted houses either. I don't usually admit that, but I'm with you. You and I can sit that one out casually.
I was the last person in, the first person out, like, knocking over everybody. I gotta go. So.
But you know what? It's fun. It's again, it's escapism. It's adrenaline, and between Halloween and everybody can get into it. Everyone understands what those primal feelings are, and so it really, ironically enough, unifies people. And horror fans are the best. They're so much fun. They're just great.
Yeah, and it seems like the horror genre, you have hardcore fans. And
yes.
So after your first feature film, it seems like everything skyrocketed for you, because to go from that and then 70 films to be in, that is an amazing feat. It's
but they're so loyal. Fans will request you. Directors and writers and producers of material are also fans of the material, so they watch for stuff. They hidden gems. They'll watch your stuff. They'll go to your conventions. The whole subgenre of this community is very inclusive and very loyal and very enthusiastic. And so if you love what you do and you're, decent at it, there is an opportunity for you to really build and maintain a career here. And it's fun. And again, it's fun. It's hard to even say that it's work because it's just a great time. If you enjoy Halloween, imagine if you get to help create Halloween. It's just, it's so much fun to be part of the thrills, and people appreciate it, and it's awesome to be able to be involved in that way.
So out of this whole awesome career that you have, what has been a highlight for you?
Let's see. I'm very goal oriented, so I set little goals for myself within. I can't pinpoint one particular, but there have been certain ones where I was I feel really good about this. I wanted to play certain types of characters. I really love true crime, and I love playing real people. So of course the highlights for that would be playing one of Charles Manson's followers, and and then of course Casey Anthony. So those were personal career goals as far as characters. I also produce now. I wanted to learn filmmaking as well as acting. So being eligible to join the Producers Guild of America, that was a big highlight for me. I'm very involved there. And then my first movies hitting Netflix and my most recent one, The Dawn, is a big career goal for me. It's the first time that I'm leading a theatrical movie. So that was really, really special for me too. And just getting to work with, your idols and people you watched growing up in films, and then getting to, to play opposite them or to see how they work and how they do them and learn from them. It's really cool. Vivica Fox was on a movie we had like a couple of years ago called Crossbreed, and watching her get into character and how she worked after, watching her as a child. Linda Blair from The Exorcist. I mean, that was such a learning experience too. And, I grew up with child stars, Stacey Dash from Clueless and Jonathan Bennett. So having them on The Dawn, and then, I'm acting with them. It's just, again, surreal, very surreal and really cool. And just, you're constantly learning and growing and watching people who are incredible artists share that. And it's just a dream job. It really is.
That's pretty cool. And then, so going from horror to actually playing true life people like you did with the Charles Manson biopic, and then the other film where you played Casey Anthony in the ID miniseries. What was the difference? And then actually playing somebody, a real person, was that a challenge? Like, I got to get the mannerisms right, and like, what was that experience like?
It's a very different experience. So the cool thing about the genre is there's really no limitations. Like, I've played creatures and aliens and demons. And so you have to think about not just people's mannerisms, but, you have to create an entire race or species of sometimes. And so that takes a lot of physical, mental preparation, and you have some leeway there, some flexibility. If you play an alien wrong, no one's going to get mad at that, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're taking on someone's story, if you're telling a real story and portraying a real person, and especially when it's sensitive material, like when people have passed away because of it, it's a whole nother level of responsibility, and one that I take really seriously. So for both of those roles, I researched extensively. For the Manson biopic, I read a variety of books from several different people involved in the crimes to get different perspectives. I read the historical events. We read the transcripts from jail, playing Susan Atkins, which was his follower. I watched all of her videos and interviews and trial from the time period in which she portrayed all the way to most recently when she died, just to get a sense of her as a person, and her mannerisms. And, and it's hard to play because no one is all good and no one is all bad. But if you're playing someone who did bad things, do you want to minimize those because the person who did them doesn't feel nearly as bad about it as, the victims or the victims' families? You don't want to insult them by really, really going for it. On the flip side, are you going to offend them if you minimize it? So there was a lot to take in there. In fact, some of the family members of the victims were aware of the film when we were doing it, and a lot of I don't want to say fans of the case, but I guess the Manson family has a lot of fans, and they also, of course, a lot of critics, people who were very touched by that case, had a lot of opinions. We got death threats.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it got really, really, really intense because it's very it's very personal to a lot of people. And so there was a lot of responsibility with taking on something that infamous, and how we were going to portray that. Ultimately, when the film came out, and we were very vocal, like a lot of times you can't really talk to people who are angry about something, you know, every movie you've ever seen is the worst movie ever. And you know what I mean? Like, people online, you don't even touch it. But with this one, we were very vocal all the way through about our intentions. And I was very, I talked one-on-one with a lot of people about playing the character, why I wanted to play it, how we wanted to play it. And ultimately, people really appreciated the direction that we took with the movie and that I took with the character. And we, even though it was a smaller film, that movie did worldwide news. We were in all the major trades for that, Vanity Fair, Deadline, I mean, Rolling Stone. We got crazy amount of big press for that because of the direction we took. So ultimately it ended up being really rewarding. With Casey Anthony, that was a different animal. It was for ID. We didn't get a lot of information on what the series was or what it was going to be or the direction they were going to take on it when we were filming, actually. So I did a lot of work on my own for her. I watched a lot of her videos to get her mannerisms and things right. But it's different with Casey because, one, she's like the most hated person on the planet. So of course everyone was like, "Why would you play her?"
What are you doing? Right?
And you know, my personal opinion is that she did it. So it was hard because Susan Atkins was convicted for her crimes. She spent her life in prison where she died for it. Yeah. There was some sort of justice there. But, you know, Casey got off. And she's like living the lap of luxury. She has a house. She has a new boyfriend. She wants a new kid. It's like unbelievable. So I hated her so much. So to have to play her, honestly, was really an internal struggle, but I kind of took it as a challenge. Like, you can't play this with a sense of like sarcasm or snarkiness because you just hate the lady so much. You have to go into it with genuine intentions. Like, you genuinely, you know, believed that you weren't in those places and you didn't do those things, and you genuinely believe that, you know, people are just out to get you. And it was it was a lot of time and practice in the mirror to get things right, and weird choices to make of whether she was telling the truth or lying, whether she thought she was telling the truth or lying, and really, really interesting process for that. But it did, the show, when it cut together, I was very pleased. They dropped some new information on the case throughout it that was crazy, crazy details that hadn't been revealed before on it. And it ended up doing amazing numbers. It's the record holder for ID's channel ratings.
For like the highest ratings. Yeah, congratulations with that. And
thank you.
You speak of something, it's got to be a struggle. Like, I play this person I despise so much. That's
really,
gotta be a struggle.
Yes, because, you know, even with Susan, not to excuse what she did. I mean, she killed people. She stabbed a pregnant 9-month woman to death and then refused to save the child. I mean, she did horrible, horrendous things. But she worked the rest of her life. She became religious. She helped tons of people from prison. She expressed extended remorse for what she did. There was a full circle of a person there. Whether it was true or not, you know, was a different story if she meant it or not. But there was some kind of redemption there. And, you know, Casey Anthony just kind of sits there indifferent. Yeah. I just want to smack her in the face. So it's really hard to play.
So going from all of this, and then now you direct and you know, your first feature film, I mean, The Don, was that an easy transition to go from, you know, being an actor to actually cultivating your own content?
So I don't direct, to be clear. That was it's Brandon Slegels. I do produce. And I produced a couple. It started just for fun. I loved acting so much and creating a character. I thought it would be fun to help create the world these characters are living in too. So I wanted to learn as much as I could. But now I really found a love for that too. So I do pursue both of them. The Dawn was something that I was really passionate about telling. I don't know. Did you have a chance to watch it yet? I can send you the film.
No, I haven't had a chance. I would definitely love to see it.
It's so without going into much detail, there's a lot of spoilers with it. The quote unquote spoiler alert is that the end ties into a famous franchise.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So with that in mind, it's hard to talk about. So I was asking if you had seen it because it's hard to it's been hard to promote because there are several different movies happening within the same movie.
Okay.
So yeah. So and what's interesting is different viewers have different viewing experiences. So it's kind of an interesting film, and it's an interesting film to talk to people about who've seen because different people get a different movie each time. And so I was wondering which one you had kind of seen in it, but it was something I was really passionate about. I had the idea for the story for a while. And ultimately all the things kind of just came together on it and we decided to do it, but we had a lot of crazy things happen on that as well. It started as a joke that this movie was cursed or channeled demons, and by the end of it, it was not a joke anymore.
Oh, wow, like a poltergeist kind of curse?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
exactly. And we can do a follow-up on this one afterwards, because it's a whole separate... I've done shows just entirely on the paranormal experiences happening with this movie, and I'm a skeptic. But there has been so much crazy shit. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can say that. So much crazy stuff.
You're good.
Okay. So much crazy stuff that happened on this movie that turned, a lot of people, myself included, from skeptics to believers. There is something weird out there, and we channeled it. And I actually ended up talking to a lot of different people who have made paranormal movies or movies that centered around that kind of topics and materials, and it is a reoccurring theme. So many filmmakers, whether they were aware of anything paranormal or other realm-ish or however you want to say it, if they were aware of it or not, tons of people who have kind of opened that can of worms have had horrible things happen to them. Most of them will not do another paranormal movie because it just opens Pandora's box, starting with like Poltergeist, exactly like that, and The Exorcist. Just there seems to always be a curse with this kind of dabbling. So it's kind of interesting to learn. But I think I'm done with that after this one because
no, actually, as we're talking, I went ahead and got it. I went ahead and got it, so I'll watch it, and we'll have to do a follow-up because it's interesting, right? So World War I, she goes to a covenant, and so the demons follow her. Right? So, yeah, I'm going to have to check this out.
It's so long story short, the safe version of the plot is it's about a young girl, yes, in the wake of World War I. Her father is suffering from something that we now know is PTSD from being in the war, and he comes home and he's seeing visions of the war and triggers, and he ends up killing his family, with the exception of one of the daughters who I play, Rose, and she is now an orphan. So she grows up in a convent and decides to dedicate herself to the church. It's what she knows. But as she's pursuing the final steps to becoming a nun, things around the convent start getting kind of creepy, and she's not really sure if it's the place she's at or if it's her, and a lot of spooky things ensue. And then, like I said, at the end, it ends up turning as a tie-in to a well-known franchise. But it's a slow burn at first. So if you watch it, if anybody who's listening watches it, you have to go in and commit to it. There's a beginning, promise you it picks up, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and then it drops you on your head at the end. But there's a lot of details you have to pay attention to because it all comes back together at the end. So
perfect. So I bought it. So The stuff that I don't catch, because what is that, The Sixth Sense? There was a lot of stuff I didn't catch, and then 20 years later, like, wow, okay.
Yes. I've had a lot of people actually who reviewed it who were like, oh yeah, I was kind of watching it first, and then halfway through it was like, oh snap, and then then I got to the end and I was like, wait a minute, and they're like, I had to watch it again, and it was a totally different viewing experience. And so it is one of those kinds of movies. It's hard sometimes. I try to do movies for every viewing type. There's different things that get under different people's skin. So when people say, you watch horror movies, what should I watch? I always ask, well, what kind of stuff do you like? And it had been a while since I had done a paranormal psychological thriller type. And so I wanted to do one. And it's kind of hard to get people who like slashers or who like a lot of action in the beginning to watch this. But almost all of them who have been able to sit down and focus have said it was a really big payoff. And since we're all sitting at home right now, you have the time to do it.
We definitely got time. So, again, thank you for coming on the show. And as with all my great interviews, time is like we got 4 minutes left. So, Devanny, 4 minutes, like, what's self-promotion time? Where can people find you? What's next in the pipeline? This is your time.
Oh, great. Okay, so right now I'm mostly promoting those few films that I have out. The Dawn is my latest release. It was coming out. I think US did get it. We were on in theaters earlier this year, and then we came out on VOD, and Lionsgate put it out on DVD. And I think the stores are closed now, so that's not a possibility. We can probably still get it online. Yeah. And then Crossbreed is my sci-fi action movie. That's available on all major platforms. That's the one with Vivica Fox. She's awesome in it. Daniel Baldwin in that one as well, Vernon Wells. And I had a couple coming up, but I'm going to hold off on talking about them for now because with our very interesting state, I just don't know when the industry's going to pick back up and start releasing things again. So I'm going to hold off on those for now.
No, good idea, because I just heard about Sony and their summer movies. They're not releasing until next summer.
They're not releasing anything. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. But I have a lot of stuff floating around. I literally have something for everybody. So let's see, if you like Grindhouse, you're like, we have Party Bus to Hell with Tara Reid, which is on Tubi, Redbox, a bunch of I guess you can't do Redbox anymore. Tubi, Amazon, iTunes. The Dawn, if you like paranormal. If you into true crime, House of Manson. If you like exploitation, I'm in Nude Nuns with Big Guns. If you like mainstream stuff, I have cameos in Satanic with Sarah Hyland and Piranha 3D. Let's see, what else do people like? I should probably I have to pull up my stuff. I start to forget. Is that horrible?
No, you got a vast library, so I completely understand.
Oh, yeah, action. Sorry, trying to be more mainstream because I know you guys are mainstream. I have an action movie called Chase that's out right now on all major VOD, DVD. I don't think it's out in US yet. UK just got my latest one. I think, I should have it pulled up. I know. I'll send you links on that one. I'm sorry. They have it on Netflix, but bunch of stuff. I can send you everything. You can find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, which is my name at Devanny Pinn, DEVANNYPINN. And I love chatting with movie fans, especially darker people, horror, sci-fi, thriller, even action. That's my jam, and I'm just as much of a nerd about it as I am someone who works in it. So message me anytime, tweet at me, and I'd love to hear from you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another special guest. And again, Devanny, thank you for coming out. And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. And definitely check out her movie now and the movies that she has. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Nias and Devanny Pinn signing off for Deeper Than Music Radio.
Thank you, Mark. Take care, guys.
The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest, deeper than music, deeper than music. The core of you, the fans the truth. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music, deeper than music.